We take the step out on our yes and watch. Only when we step out does the bridge begin to appear.
Derek is a powerful healer and soul restorer.
Your wings are big enough to hold everyone in them.
He just goes right to the core of whatever is your challenges and helps you rise above it.
More wealth, more health, more vitality, more of life.
You work with people in such a genuine, heartfelt way.
The energy that really empowered me is love, but when you see it getting back from somebody like him, there's no limit.
So that each and every one of us become the pure, clear channels of that divine destiny of greatness, so that we live a legendary life and leave a lasting legacy.
Derek is a teacher for whose time has come.
Hey, welcome back. Derek Rydell here, founder of the Law of Emergence and author of the best-selling book Emergence, and now this powerful system of awakened wealth. And it's, again, so great to have you here. I can already just feel the energy of this community that's growing around these powerful principles. And I hope you enjoyed the first video. If you didn't get a chance to check it out, please do, and download the free ebook on the 5 hypnotic wealth spells. I think it's gonna blow your mind, open your heart, and lift your spirit like never before. It really helps you because we're building on something. Now, you can watch this video as a standalone, and I'm gonna quickly recap some things here, but it will really serve you to watch that video. So what we covered in that was, first of all, the big promise. What's the big promise of Awaken Wealth? You know, we've all been taught and learned so many strategies and tactics to win friends and influence others and attract more clients or get more clients or grow our business or whatever. And there's all these strategies and tactics, and they're good. There's a lot of great ones that we're gonna talk about some of them. The problem is it gets us connected to always having to manipulate conditions, and if conditions go south, we're left holding the ball or holding the bag or holding the shoe or whatever the saying says. But when you understand Awaken Wealth and how to tap into not the resources, but the source within you, this big promise is that you are able to generate all of your needs abundantly, regardless of circumstances and conditions. How would you like to live a life like that? That's what's possible with Awaken Wealth, and we really dove into that in the first video, but of course this whole series is about helping you to do that. We also talked about the real nature of wealth, that it's not dollar bills and chickens and cabbages and kings. If you're wondering why I'm saying chicken, you gotta watch the first video if you haven't. But we realized that wealth is spiritual, it's invisible, it's energetic. We also realized where it is. It's not out there, it's not in the bank or the economy, it's within you. It's invisible, like it is in the tree that gives off the fruit. It's an invisible activity that uses that invisible substance that makes all of creation. And we're gonna talk a lot more about, to really help you anchor that idea about how everything is energy and why it's so important to understand this to create a flow of abundance in your life. And then we talked about, putting all that together, kind of why the love of money is not the root of all evil. That when we understand that saying, we understand money is a symbol, and that it's really telling us the love of the symbols of wealth. When we love something, you become one with it, you become identified with it, you become attached to it, and then you do everything you can to keep it and hold on to it and not lose it. Well, if you think the dollar bill is money, is wealth rather, or that job, or that spouse, you're gonna start to do a lot of things to hold on to that symbol. And it often leads to compromising your own integrity and in many cases, destroying our lives. But that's not wealth. And ultimately, when you understand that, which we talked about in the first video, you're freed from that downward spiral, that failure pattern. And we talked about the great reversal, how everything is within you. That the world can't give you anything, it can't take anything away. Whatever's missing is what you're not generating. Whatever you're waiting for, you're waiting with, and often weighing it down. So this is the ultimate weight loss program. So you're no longer having to wait for anybody or anything to change before you can step into your dream and your destiny and generate the wealth and abundance that you need and want. And we talked about the big betrayal, which is that when you make anyone or anything outside of you your source, the universe is set up to fail you. And when you don't understand this principle, the universe can feel like an enemy, like it's against you at every turn. And when you understand it, the universe becomes your silent partner, and you get all of that support, all of that power, all of that substance to fulfill your life and your purpose. And then we went into the 5 hypnotic wealth spells, which is, helping you to begin to snap out of these illusions and delusions and distortions of separation, lack, and limitation that look and seem and feel so real that we are trapped in that box until we wake up from it. And I talked to you about how to begin to snap out of that. Now, in this video, we are going to now dive into how you begin to circulate that abundance. Now that you know where it is, what it is, it's within you, how do you start to get it out? How do you start to get that flow going? And we're talking about the 7 wealth activators, or the 7 gifts that give you everything. That's the framework for this. Then we're also going to talk about the 25 ways to manifest more. And this is a deceptively simple process that's going to actually help you to generate more thought energy, more fluent thinking, turn on that inner creative, innovative part of you so that you can start seeing that there are so many possibilities available to you. Right now, most of us have a myopic vision, and our possibilities have been collapsed into 1 or 2 or 3, if any at all. And this is going to begin to help you open up the aperture of your awareness to see that there are so many channels, so many possibilities. And then we're going to talk about this open secret to long-term success. Now, one important thing to understand as we're beginning to see that wealth is not dollars and stuff, that there is a deeper, more core substance that is the very foundation and the substance of everything that we create in our life, and that it's within us. And we can call this energy. We're learning more and more how everything is energy, that all the stuff that looks solid to us is really just energy moving at different rates. Depending on the rate it's moving, it could be invisible, it could be gas, it could be liquid, it could be solid, but it's all energy just moving at different rates. And the more energy that flows, the more manifestation happens, okay? So I want you to get these fundamental ideas here, that more energy flow equals more abundance. And so conversely, less energy flow, less of this substance of life flowing through you and around you and to you, less of that blocks and stagnates. When the channels start to constrict and close down for the various reasons I've talked about, there's less and less energy flowing out of you until it's like a hose with a bunch of kinks in it, and there's all this pressure, but there's just barely a couple dribbles coming out. Your life has become stagnant, or some area of your life, and it becomes ultimately like a swamp where nothing can live, where not even the animals want to drink from it. And our life can become like that, or areas when we have made outside things our source, when we believe that wealth is material stuff, and we haven't learned to turn into this source and turn on this inner wealth machine and get this energy flowing, our life starts to stagnate. It starts to become like a swamp, and it becomes very difficult. We got to bring in the pump and start pumping out all that stuff to get the flow going again. And we're going to talk about how to open up all those channels. But the key here is to understand it's all about flow. In fact, the word affluence, which is also a definition of a rich person, they're affluent, comes from the same word that means flow. Also, interestingly enough, current, which is the flow of water, is the same root as currency, which is money, right? So when we talk about affluence and currency, you start to see we're not talking about a material thing, we're talking about a flow. People that are affluent and that have lots of currency are people that have opened up in some way, shape, or form the channels of energy so that there's more flow. And the more flow, the stronger the current, the more the currency. The more the flow, the more the affluence. And it manifests as the abundance that your life needs. Now, one other quick thing to understand, we've misunderstood the definition of manifestation. Manifesting doesn't mean you make something out of nothing. Manifesting is making that which already is but is invisible, visible, tangible, by increasing the energy flow around it, by up-leveling the vibration of it. But it's already here. It's already here. It's like, your favorite music is broadcasting right where you are, but it's not manifest until you change your frequency so that your frequency is in alignment with the frequency of that station. Once you are in integrity with that station, that music or that station manifests. You have a manifest station. And the music wasn't in the distance, it wasn't in the future, It was broadcasting right where you are, but it wasn't manifest until you came into vibrational alignment with it. That makes perfect sense, right? Well, your wealth and abundance is already broadcasting. And when you start to understand these principles and put the flow of life and expand the flow until your channels are wide open like a river rushing downhill without a boulder in sight, now you just begin to manifest abundance. It begins to, like the river that carves out the Grand Canyon, it begins to carve away in the world and remove the mountains. The water can literally take a mountain down. So those mountains that you're facing that seem so insurmountable, as you get this energy flowing and rushing out of you, which we're going to talk about how to do, it starts to take down the mountains, it starts to carve a path, it starts to unfold your deeper purpose and your greater potential. Is that exciting? Like, isn't that awesome? I mean, I really want you to, I don't want this just to wash over you. I want you to really let this sink in. Are you feeling the potential here, the power, the possibilities? Are you starting to see a light bulb go on? This is really, really powerful stuff. Now, just be aware of this. Be aware of the whole idea that at the end of the day, wealth is energy, wealth is invisible, it's all within us. We got to get it flowing. The more flow, the more affluence. Think about that. Be thinking about that as we dive into the 7 wealth activators or the 7 gifts that give you everything. Because these are the core 7 channels you have to start getting the energy flowing in again. That will open up all the channels within you so that you're just a wide open channel for this abundant energy to flow. Now, the 7 gifts are giving out, giving away, giving up, giving in, giving thanks, giving to yourself, and forgiving. Okay, so those are 7 gifts: giving out, giving away, giving up, giving in, giving thanks, giving to yourself, and forgiving. Now, you're also going to get a bonus ebook on the 7 gifts or the 7 wealth activators. So definitely check that out so that you have that. But these are the core channels you want to get open. Now, as you'll notice, they're not, only one of them is really about money. And that's another big important thing to understand, because this isn't about just making money. This is about generating a massive tidal wave of energy so that it's just flowing. And when you have that flow, you have that abundance. So the first one, giving out. This is about giving of your time, your talent, and your treasure. And these are areas where we often are waiting, again, for a condition to change. Well, I like to give of my time, maybe philanthropically or be of service or in some way, but I don't have a lot of time. So we wait to have more time, and what we've done is we put it outside of us. That channel starts to stagnate. We notice we have less and less time, and then we have an even deeper and deeper excuse for why we can't give our time. You see how this works? And then because we're caught in thinking what appears is what's the source, it becomes a downward failure pattern until we have less and less and less time, and a deeper and deeper pain and regret that we don't have enough time to do the thing we want, when all along the source and the capacity was within us, but we had to step forth and begin to give out of our time, regardless of what our schedule looks like, to find that way to get that flow going again. The next one is talent. We have these gifts, these talents, but we're waiting for the right situation, the right condition to give of our talents. Maybe you want to be a singer, but you don't have any gigs. Well, put a concert on for your cat. You know, before I was speaking in public, you know where I was speaking? In my underwear, in my bedroom, walking around talking to myself like a crazy person, giving speeches. I'd be on road trips with my family, and all of a sudden I would just lapse into giving a speech, and my wife would kind of wake up and look over at me, and she'd be like, who are you talking to? You know, and I'm just wildly gesticulating and passionately proclaiming things, and you know, it started to become kind of a funny joke. You know, I'd be over there just like, you know, just my mouth's moving and I'm giving this speech. So I wasn't waiting. I was just doing it, man. I was just living it, stepping into it. You know, when my kids said, I want to grow up and be a wealthy person, and I said, oh great, go start a lemonade stand. Oh, I'm just gonna make 5 cents, 10 cents, a buck, a few bucks. And they're like, I want to make millions. And I'm like, start a lemonade stand. Start where you are. Give of your gifts and talents where you are, and you start the flow. I remember one kid that did that with the lemonade stand, and pretty soon it was a successful stand, and he actually franchised his lemonade stand. He began to find kids around the neighborhood and create more lemonade stands, and now he had a bunch of lemonade stands and all these kids working for him. He's taking a piece of it all. I mean, it's like, wow, that kid understood flow, right? So you can start where you are and begin to find a way to give of that talent, to give it out, to give out your time, to give out your talent, and then your treasure. So this means like tithing, which is a way of giving back to your source of inspiration. It means 10 in the biblical sense. 10% of your revenue, whatever comes in, it doesn't belong to you, it belongs to God, to the universe, whatever. Give it back to the source of your inspiration. You can also be philanthropic and give it, the purest sense, tithing means to give back to your source of inspiration. Some people give to charitable causes as well. It works in terms of giving of your treasure. But what stops us is we think, I want to be philanthropic, I want to give more, but I can barely handle my bills. And it's like that story. And by the way, when I say God or Jesus or Buddha or spiritual stuff, this is not religious dogma, doctrine. Religion comes from a Latin term religios, that means to bind you back to the source, like ligament. So this is just spiritual principle, perennial truth teachings. This is not religiosity, just for those that might be recovering Catholics or something. But there was a moment where Jesus and his disciples are looking into place and they're giving of their alms or giving of their tithes to the church. And one guy's all pious and makes sure everybody sees what he's doing and gives a bunch. And an old lady very quietly and very sincerely gives just a couple pennies. And Jesus says, who do you think just gave more? So it's not that you got to give a lot. The universe knows quality and consciousness, not quantity. So when you just give a little, you start the flow. And it starts to expand. It turns on the inner pump, the inner wealth machine. It starts circulating. And then you have a little bit more to give. Because the universe goes, ooh, we found a channel that's willing to circulate, to let me put the universe on display. Let's channel more there. And it starts to open and stretch, and more comes out. So it doesn't matter how little you start, quote unquote. It matters that you start. So that's giving out. The next one is giving away. This one is about all the clutter and the things you have in your car, your house, your trunk, your drawers, the junk drawer. It's like, why do we have a junk drawer? Isn't that just a trash can? Isn't that just a horizontal trash can? But anyways, I digress. But basically it's about looking at all those places where you're holding on to stuff, that stack of magazines you're never gonna read. I'm here to tell you, if nobody else has told you, you're not going to read them. You need to let them move out. Or all those stuffed animals you're still holding on in a box somewhere to somehow keep a piece of your childhood. Or those clothes that have been hanging in your closet for, 2 years or more. You're not gonna wear them, okay? So all this stuff, remember the idea about energy. I told you to keep this in mind. All of this is energy. And all of these things you're holding on to, filling in drawers and cupboards and cars and boxes and all of that, and it's got a story to it. It's got an emotional piece of content stuck under it. It's all stuck energy. And it's blocking the flow for the new to come in. And when you start to give it away, circulate it again, one man's trash is another man's treasure. When you start to give it away, circulate it, sell it, put it on eBay, whatever the case is, clear out the clutter, create space in your life again. That book, The Magic Art of Tidying Up, that was a big phenomenon. One of the things she says in there is the art or the act of clearing out all the clutter has an almost mystical, magical reaction or response that can totally change your life. And I'm just paraphrasing. But when I saw that, I was like, yep, that's what I teach in Awaken Wealth. It's all stuck energy and it's not flowing. So you want to move everything out that you don't really need, you don't really use, and you're never really going to. And leave the space now for that which is meant to be to flow in. And even if nothing seems to flow in, you've got that channel open and the energy is starting to flow and circulate. The swamp is clearing up. And it will show up in ways that you can't even imagine. The next gift is giving up. So this is about all the clutter we have in the drawers and the closets and the compartments of our own consciousness. These are those patterns like gossiping and complaining, those pet peeves. That pet peeve is something you love to hate. And you just love to talk about how much you hate it. That's like you're holding on to this, the judgments, the comparisons, the opinions, even preferences. Now this is advanced training, folks. Don't try this alone. But basically it's any idea of what should or shouldn't be is a preference, is a judgment, and ultimately does become a block to your greater unfoldment. But there's some very core chronic complaints, judgments, gossip, opinions, pet peeves that are like filling up the closets and the cupboards of your mind, and they're creating stagnation in the flow of this particular channel. And so when you begin to release this, one at a time, don't do too many at once or you'll go crazy. So one at a time, you might take, release an opinion every day, or a few a week. But as you start to let these go, in their place, inspired thinking and vision starts to flow, which is just thought energy. And as that circulates, you become available to the larger life that's trying to emerge through you. Are you getting this? Are you like, whoa, this is cool. I'm gonna start cleaning out my closet. Don't do it right now. Stick with me. You can go do it later. But this is powerful stuff, folks. And some of it you might be thinking, well, that's kind of silly. What does it have to do with anything? Hopefully you're seeing the picture. It's all about energy. It's all about energy flow. You ultimately want to become a wide open channel where the energy is rushing out of you, unhindered, unobstructed. And then it manifests as all the abundance and all your needs met in often mystical, magical ways. The next one is giving in. So this is about understanding that there's always a larger life trying to emerge through you. You've activated it somewhere along the line, and it's bumping into those places, those old habits, those old identities, those old concepts of who you are and why you're alive. And you're like the acorn, if it had self-consciousness. It looks out at a field of oak, it yearns for a bigger life, it doesn't know why, it's attracted to that. And suddenly the oak is activated within it. And as it starts to emerge, it pushes up against the shell and creates pressure, and the shell starts to crack. And if it had self-consciousness, if it was on a spiritual path, that acorn would probably call in a healer to try to do Reiki on its shell or something. And you gotta heal my shell, it's falling apart, man. This is my life, this is who I am, this is what protects me. And if it succeeded, it would thwart its destiny and just become the best nut in the forest maybe, or get eaten by a squirrel. But there's a larger life. Thankfully, the acorn yields to it, and that protective shell cracks, it falls away, and the larger life emerges. So there's a larger life of wealth and abundance and all of that unfolding in your life. But in many places, you're activating and praying for more wealth and abundance, but you're still holding on to habits and ways of being and doing, conversations that are talking about how there's not enough jobs or how bad the economy is. Or you go to the store and you want to buy those apples because they're organic and not covered in pesticide, but you think, oh, I can't afford it. It's like $1 a pound more, man. And so you're holding on to this old limited perception, pattern, habit, and it's creating a tremendous amount of resistance against what's trying to emerge. So in this gift, it's about surrendering to what's emerging. It's not about acquiescing to the situation. It's about yielding to the oak. It's about knowing there's a larger vision here. What is the larger vision? And beginning to lean into it and allow it and let it crack away the parts you no longer need. You have to give in. Again, and surrender comes sometimes as a 4-letter word for people. They feel like they're giving up. But you're allowing. You're not surrendering again to the circumstance. You're surrendering to what's emerging. That's the key distinction. And then there's giving thanks. Giving thanks, we heard about this, but this is so powerful because the attitude of gratitude is the evidence that the gift has already been given. If you live in a state of gratitude long enough, the universe starts giving you more and more things to be thankful for. Now, it looks like those things are making us grateful. That's where we get lost. Again, that's the outside in. The inside out is realizing that our state of gratitude circulates that energy, that flow that manifests itself according to our perfect pattern and plan as things that we feel resonant with and grateful for. It's not coming from out there. The gratitude can only come from in here. So the journey of gratitude looks something like this. We start off, we're not grateful for anything, right? I wake up some days feeling like that. And then we work a little bit and we find something to be grateful for. Just something. The wind on our face, the sun on our skin, the look of our child, that we're healthy, whatever. And as we keep working this, we're now looking to be grateful for everything. Even and especially the things that we don't like, the things that look bad. It's all just energy, even if it's stuck in certain forms, but that energy is good. And so we begin to bless everything. We begin to give thanks for everything. We begin to realize and remember everything is conspiring to circulate more energy and manifest more abundance in our life. So just like a forest fire is needed to cause a jack pine to crack open its seeds and flourish, and certain plants need really hard soil to activate their enzymes and grow thick, healthy bark, certain challenges and problems are happening to create the conditions for us to grow stronger, to expand our channels. So we learn to give thanks for all of it, okay? So you start off with nothing to be grateful for, you learn to be grateful for something, you practice till you're grateful for everything, and then ultimately you find that you're grateful for nothing, meaning you're just a state of gratitude. It's not attached to an object. And that's the master path. That's when things really start flowing. Then we get to another one. We're getting near the end of these, but this is a very, very important one for you heart-centered, spiritually minded people. And that is giving to yourself. Take a breath. You know, like the old saying, you know, when the oxygen mask falls down in the plane, you got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first and then the child. And a lot of us do-gooders, caretakers, good-hearted people, we're constantly trying to take care of everybody else. We're constantly trying to say yes to everybody else's yes, and we're not filling ourselves up first, and we're running on empty. And we feel burned out, overwhelmed, resentful, angry, and then we repress the anger, and we become addicted, and we eat over it, and we work over it, and all of that. Sound a little familiar? Because we suffer from this shadow of feeling like it's selfish to give to yourself. It's selfish to take care of yourself. It's selfish to want what you want and to have what you need. We've been conditioned that way. And it's completely false. Check it out. The law of circulation states thus: you cannot give what you don't have. So you have to have it to really give it. Now we can fool that ourselves because we can have the experience of giving and giving and giving, but when we're doing it from not having, we are depleting our energy. We are ultimately pulling it from the very cells of our body. We ultimately, like I said, activate anger, resentment, burnout, overwhelm, and we project it on the other person and they feel blamed and it never really was their fault because we're the ones doing it. And then, you know, it just becomes more and more breakdowns, you know, until hopefully we have that breakthrough. But the truth is you cannot give what you don't have. That's the first part of circulation. Then you cannot keep what you don't give. Now you got to circulate it. Then you finally cannot sustain what you don't receive. It's one cycle, one circuit, as in energy, like one breath. Got to breathe in, got to breathe out, got to breathe in again. If you just breathe out, 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 I'm just a giving, loving person, breathe out, breathe out, breathe out, you're going to die, right? And maybe you feel like you've died a little bit inside because you're in those kind of relationships. And if you just breathe in, breathe in, breathe in, you're going to die. So you have to have this flow, this circulation. You have to fill yourself up. And the key here is whatever you're trying to get from anyone or waiting from anyone, you have to start to give it to yourself. Like if you're waiting for love and respect, you ask yourself, if I loved and respected myself, how would I treat myself? If I loved and respected myself, how would I show up today or in this relationship or at this job? Not, well, I'll show up when they show me some respect. If they love me, I'll love them back. No, because guess what? All the love and respect and everything you're withholding from them, you're withholding from yourself. And so you have to first fill yourself up with whatever you're trying to get, then you start to circulate it. So if you want, let's say, more love and respect from your boss or from your spouse or your kids, you know, you have to actually start giving that to yourself. It's not going to come from them. It never did, it never will. It has to be generated and activated within you. So you have to ask yourself, if I loved and respected myself, how would I treat myself? How would I show up in that relationship or in that job? If I really loved, and whatever the quality is, if I really valued, if I really validated myself, if I really knew I was beautiful and talented, whatever you're trying to get or wait for some kind of acknowledgement, how would I show up? How would I hold myself? How would I treat myself? And you start to, it'll lead to new conversations. It'll lead to you doing less of some things. You starting to say no to their yes and yes to your yes. How would you like to start saying yes to your yes? How would you like to have the confidence and the power to know that you can say yes to your yes, and all of your needs will be taken care of, and you'll have more left over to share and to spare and to serve and to circulate? But if you don't fill yourself, if you don't give everything to you that you want, then you won't have it to give to others. And you also won't have it for yourself. So it's ironic because it's not selfish to fill yourself up and take care of yourself. It's profoundly selfish to not. Because then you're burning yourself out. You're cutting open the golden goose to give away all the gold, and you kill the goose. So it's profoundly selfish to not take care of yourself, to not give to yourself. Now, just take a breath, because I know, having worked with so many people around the world, this is a really powerful wound for a lot of people. They don't know how to take care of themselves. They don't know how to love themselves and serve and fill themselves up. It's one of the reasons why you're struggling, suffering, lacking, because you're literally running on fumes. Or it's like trying to float a boat with a big leak in it and you're sinking. I know what that's like. I was Mr. Nice Guy for a long time. And it's really true, nice guys finish last when it's nice guys. But when you're filling yourself up and taking care of yourself, you have something real to give. So I promise you, as you learn this and practice this, you're not going to become selfish, even though some people might try to initially tempt you to believe that and push back because suddenly you're not, waiting on them hand and foot. But as you hold your place in this, and I'm going to talk to you in the 4th video about how to do that permanently and put it on autopilot, your life flourishes for you and for everyone involved. And then we get to forgiving. And I could do a whole talk on this alone, but I want to talk just briefly about why this is so important, because we don't really understand forgiveness. There's many layers to it that's beyond the scope of this. But in terms of energetic, when you are, look at the very word, forgiving. You're not forgetting, you're not fortaking, you're forgiving. You are giving, you are generating, you are circulating. When you're unforgiving of yourself or someone else, you're essentially saying, I owe you or you owe me. And you end up with debt, energetic debt. Really, unforgiveness is one of the most powerful ways to turn your life into a swamp. It's one of the most powerful ways to stagnate the energy flow. And that's why oftentimes debt is a sign of a story of unforgiveness. And when you start to release that and start to unlock and unleash that prison you've put yourself in or someone else in, and you start to generate and be giving, forgiving, now you start to circulate again. And a lot of times that heals your heart, it heals the relationship. And even if it doesn't change the other person, it's really for your sake. It's like the old saying, being unforgiving of somebody and resenting is like drinking poison and thinking it's going to hurt them. And it just makes you sick or kills you. Same thing with unforgiveness. You're blocking your flow. Remember, anywhere you're not willing to express the quality, whether it's love, generosity, kindness, compassion, caring, forgive, that is literally, to that extent, you are blocking that energy and quality from coming into your life. Remember, life doesn't happen to you, it happens through you, from you. So when you block that channel, I'm gonna give as good as I get. I'm not gonna be nice and loving and kind over there. You think you're doing something to them? You've just closed the sluice gate on that channel, and the water starts to stack up and stagnate, and you're turning your life into a swamp. But when you're willing to just love, you want to love the way the sun shines. It's unconditional. People can curse the sun, close their blinds, put on sunblock. The sun doesn't go, oh, well, then the heck with you. I'm not going to shine on you. It's like in the Bible where it says, he shines his light on the just and the unjust, the saint and the sinner. God is no respecter of persons, but a respecter of principle. So again, it's all about becoming an unconditional channel of flow. So when you love and you radiate, you circulate unconditionally, not trying to get anything from anyone. If they don't receive it, that's up to them. You are generating this flow for your life and for everybody that's a part of your life. So being forgiving is one of the most powerful ways to open up the channels and get this energy. It's the ultimate debt reduction plan, is being forgiving. So those are the 7 gifts in a nutshell, or in an acorn shell. And And again, look at the ebook to go deeper into it. I'm going to talk about in the final video about how we're going to put all this together into just a rocking plan that's going to allow you to create the inner and outer structures in a way of life design that puts all this on autopilot. But begin to contemplate that and what gift you might want to begin to practice right away. But I want to talk about a couple more quick points here. So the first one, he says quick, I don't do anything really quick. But the first one is the 25 ways to manifest more. And this is, again, a deceptively simple but very powerful exercise. See, again, oftentimes we think there's only one or two or three ways. And we collapse this infinite organizing power of the universe and these infinite channels into one or two. And we also collapse the channel of our mind, which is a very, very important flow of energy. And we collapse it into one little narrow myopic vision of what's possible. And all of this infinity back of us can't flow. It can't get out of us, right? So, and we just haven't learned and conditioned ourselves to be fluent with our thinking and our ideas. So this is a simple practice. You literally write a list, and let's say you want to manifest, we're going to talk about this more when we talk about in the fourth video, the 40-day money miracle goal. Let's say you want to manifest a certain amount of money, and you think, well, I'm at a job, so there's my one way to do it. So instead you go, okay, what's another way? What's another way? I could sell my kidneys, whatever. It might be some really crazy stuff. You can be crazy. I can, sell my kids, but whatever it is, I could sell some stuff I don't really use. I could do that gift about giving away stuff and put all that on eBay, and there I just made $5,000. And you hadn't even thought of that. You're like, wow. Because you were thinking you were going to read those magazines one day and you're never going to. Again, I got to tell you. But you start to come up with these ideas. So you start writing, and if you can only do 5, don't do 25, do 30. And so you got to do it. It's a practice, and if it's hard, that's a good sign because it means it's a muscle you have a lot of room to grow in. So you start to make this list, right? Now what starts to happen as you get down the list is these ideas start mating with each other and giving birth to the children of new ideas, things you had never even thought about. But what's really happening is the aperture of your mind is opening up, and you're beginning to become aware. You're beginning to think a little bit more like God, a little bit more like the universe. And by the way, God, not a man on a cloud with a white beard, but a presence, a principle that's within you that's governing all of this. You begin to tap into that mind a little more and just see the wider vista of possibilities. And suddenly 1 or 2 or 3 has this luminosity around it, and you're like, I can do that. Wow, I never even thought of that. And most people never give themselves this space to open up, to discover these inspired ideas and this compelling right action. So do this. Pick something you're working on and create these 25 ways to manifest more. And play with it, have fun with it. It expands the fluency of your thinking. It expands the energy of your thought, your thought energy. And it will activate this infinite organizing power in your life in ways that are really, really amazing. One final thing I want to just touch upon here. You're learning a lot of really powerful principles and some practices, some very practical stuff you can do, and some very, very high-level principles and theoretical constructs, and that's wonderful and necessary. But the real open secret to long-term success is not how much information you have, but how much transformation you have. And the way to get that is you have to turn all of this ultimately into a way of life. It can't just be a temporary high. You're like, wow, this is great, this is awesome, and you try it here and there, do it a couple times, or think about it and dream about it. If you could know everything about broccoli, but if you don't eat it on a regular basis, it does you no good. You could write books and theses on it, but if you haven't designed a way of life that includes it as a regular part of it, it doesn't do any good to you, okay? So the big open secret is that we have to take these principles and practices and begin to redesign our life to be in harmony with it, to be congruent with it. And we have to not just be interested in this better life, we have to be committed to it. We have to be all in. I mean, let me say something. Again, I said, your life you're living right now, it's been built on your commitment to whatever level you're at. I know you might be thinking, no, I want something more. You may want something more, but you aren't necessarily committed You aren't all in because you have to have that. You know, it's like the example when the ships arrived on the shore for this military battle, and it was a suicide mission, and the captain basically had all the ships burnt on the shore. So they told the soldiers, look back, all the ships are burning. Now there's no way off the island. There's only a way forward. No way back. You either win it or you die. And they won it. Now, we have to think in that terms. We have to make a real commitment. It's like the joke, you know, the chicken and the egg and the chicken and the pig. And they're walking down the street and the chicken's like, oh my God, look at our name is finally, we've made it. Our name is up in lights. And they look up and the pig looks up and it says, ham and eggs. And the chicken's like, wow, we finally made it, huh? And the pig's like, I don't know about you, man. That's, you know, a contribution, but for me, that's full commitment, right? So the chicken just gives an egg, the pig has to give its life. And we have to have that level of commitment. We don't have to know all the answers yet. We just have to make a decision, which means to cut away from our previous life and say, I'm gonna make this work. I'm all in. I'm all in. Okay, so that's the first step. The second thing is then we have to begin to build these structures, because right now you have a life full of habits that are automatic and subjective, mental, emotional, physical ones, and they've created your life and they keep you locked in it. We often think that conditions determine our destiny. They don't. Not your karma, not your conditions. It is your character that determines your destiny. Character means the etch of God on your soul. That's what determines your destiny. Well, what determines your character? Your habits. As Confucius said, all men are alike, but it is their habits that separate them. And what determines your habits? Your focus, your belief, your commitment. So when you commit to this journey of awakened wealth and learn to develop these habits until they become a way of life, it transforms your character and it assures a brighter destiny. Or really, I should say, for you to fulfill your deepest and truest destiny. And so it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter what you're struggling through or growing through. When you understand this piece and you begin to organize your life around it, you can and will rise above the challenges. Life will no longer become just a problem to solve, but a great adventure to live. And you will have so much more to give. And we're going to talk much more about that in the final video, about how you do this, how you put all this together to build a awakened wealth way of life, and ultimately put that abundance and success on autopilot. So again, right now I want you to be an awakened wealth warrior. Don't just listen to this and put it on a shelf somewhere and get a little shelf help, make your shelf look nicer, but actually do something. Take an action. Choose one of these awakened wealth, wealth activators, or what also called the 7 gifts, and put it into practice. And again, share it with somebody, teach it to someone, and you'll begin to activate it, you'll begin to embody and integrate it, and you'll begin to circulate more of this essential energy that becomes the abundance of your life. So comment below what you're learning, comment below what gift you're going to work with, ask questions, get engaged. Remember, you can only get out of something what you put in. So be all in. Make that commitment to yourself. Say yes to your yes. And coming up in the next video, we're going to talk about the real reason why we earn what we do and not a penny more. And we're going to go a little deeper into the secret of infinite organizing power and why it's a gateway to unlimited abundance. We're going to talk about a law that you must align yourself with, in fact, to create the flow. But when people don't understand this, even when they've done everything we've talked about so far, they're doing all these things to open up their channels. If you don't understand this law, the world will seem like it closes its door on you and the things won't flow. We're also going to talk about a shocking study that's going to forever change the way you look at clients, at family members, at anybody you interact with. It's a game changer, game changer. And then we're going to dive in a little bit into how now practically do you ask for what you really want? How do you practically charge what you're really worth? Whether it's asking for a raise or raising your rates. And do it all without shame, without guilt, without apology. How would you like to be able to do that? So I hope this has served you. I hope you're feeling inspired, motivated, energized. I hope there's more flow of energy in your life right now because of this. Please comment below, take some action, share this with somebody, share the link, teach it to somebody, have fun. And until next time, remember to live authentically, love unconditionally, and follow your destiny.